The summer Texas air hung heavy and thick, clinging to everything like a wet blanket, even as the evening sun dipped low. My name is Oliver, and for me, it was just another shift at the Schlitterbahn water park. My new maintenance tech gig was a decent step up from pulling all-nighters at Waffle House, even if it meant wrestling with chlorine levels and clearing out gross drains. But tonight's task was different. Tonight, I had to dive to the bottom of the Maw. This wasn't just any water slide. The Maw was the park's newest, biggest, and without a doubt, its most unique attraction. It was a giant slide, but the real showstopper was at the very end. The park owner, Sterling, was a dude with more money than sense and a famously macabre taste, and had bought it. It was a shark statue, dredged from the cold, murky depths of some forgotten lake. According to Reddit, the statue was a prop from a low-budget horror flick, sunk by its creators to startle unsuspecting divers after production wrapped. I'd seen the pictures online, the ones that popped up if you dared to search for abandoned lake shark statue. They were unsettling, sure, but more fascinating than frightening to me. Just a big, weird piece of art. A quick warning, if you do have even the slightest bit of submechanophobia, don't look them up. This massive great white, its head frozen in a bizarre, vague smile that looked almost unintentional. A subtle upward curl at the corners of its mouth that just seemed off. But to me, it looked cool as hell in the pictures. Sterling had spent a fortune retrieving it, then even more having it mechanized. Now, for just a few extra bucks, after a screaming descent through twisting dark tubes, riders were spat into a vast, deep pool where the shark, its mouth agape in that almost menacing smile, loomed directly beneath the surface, occasionally lunging upwards towards the guests with a hydraulic hiss along a 20-foot track that made the whole pool rumble before the machines pulled it back, making it descend out of sight to the deepest area of the pool, waiting for the next round of unsuspecting victims to trigger the sensor. Tonight, after the last shrieking kid had been ushered out and the gates locked tight, the Maw was silent. Not just quiet, but a profound, almost oppressive stillness that felt strangely peaceful. I ran through my checklist: filters, pressure gauges, and then the shark itself. The most critical sensor was acting up, meaning I had to get in the pool and check its housing. I grabbed my dive gear, feeling a pleasant calm. Just another Tuesday night. I strapped on my dive mask, adjusted the regulator, the hiss of my own breath a steady, comforting rhythm in my ears. The pool water, usually a chaotic riot of splashing, was perfectly still, reflecting the distant park lights like scattered diamonds. I pushed off the edge, sinking smoothly into the cool, chlorinated embrace. The world above vanished in a ripple, leaving me suspended in a dim, watery silence. As I descended, the surface light gradually dimmed, the familiar blue-green deepening to an inky black. I flicked on my dive light, the beam cutting a crisp, clear path through the gloom. And then, there it was. The shark itself. I had seen it 100 times from the surface, as well as the photos online. But being eye level with it underwater was different. It was huge, dwarfing me, but still just a statue. Its cold, unseeing eyes, twin black voids, didn't bother me. But that smile, so odd, that faint, almost evil-like curl at the corners of its mouth. I figured it was just how the mold settled, a trick of the artist's hand. It seemed to expand slightly in the low light, But that was just the water, the lack of real vision, a mild curiosity, and nothing more. At least, that's what I told myself. I forced myself to focus, kicking slowly, deliberately, towards the shark's head. The faulty sensor was located near its jawline. The water directly around the shark was surprisingly clear, almost unnaturally so, as if the massive form repelled the usual murk, granting me an unobstructed view. As I drew closer, the details sharpened. A rough, pocked texture of its fiberglass skin. Somehow organic, despite its artificiality. The perfectly formed teeth, each one a predatory shard. And that smile. The one that just didn't quite sit right seemed to deepen. Not wider, not more aggressive, just deeper. A subtle crinkle around its mouth that hadn't been there before. I paused, treading water. Must be the angle. Or maybe a trick of my dive light bouncing off the contours. I took a steady breath, the sound loud and calm in my ears. Just a statue, I murmured, the words a garbled bubble. Just fiberglass and hydraulics. I forced my fingers back to the panel, finding the latch. I finally got it open, revealing a tangle of wires. I quickly checked the connections, nudging a loose one back into place. Done. I started to close the panel, already thinking about getting out and grabbing a cold bottle of sweet tea. Just as my fingers brushed the panel to close it, I glanced up. The shark's head seemed to have shifted a fraction. The subtle tilt to the left, a bit more pronounced. And the smile? It had deepened, just a hair more. A hint of something sly, almost knowing, in its fixed grin. A prickle of unease finally touched my calm, an uninvited chill under my wetsuit. I blinked, shaking my head. Currents. Gotta be the currents. I pushed off the statue, kicking backward. I felt a deep but very brief vibration that seemed to emanate from around the statue itself. My heart gave a little thump, a nervous flutter. Okay, that was weird. The hydraulics were offline. The park was deserted. I was the only one here. Must have shifted slightly with the water currents. Or maybe I'd bumped it. I needed to get this done. I needed to check the track itself, where the shark slid. That would mean swimming past it, to its flank, towards where the tail would be. I hesitated for a fraction of a second, that strange, unsettling feeling growing. But I pushed it down. It was silly to be spooked by a hunk of fiberglass and paint. With a deep breath, I swam past the shark's massive, immobile head, past its still body, until I was almost at the tail end of the mechanism, my back to the sharks in its entirety. I worked quickly, checking the rollers on the submerged track, my light beam dancing over the metal, the familiar routine a welcome distraction from the rising unease. As I pulled my gloved hand back to adjust my light, a sudden, sharp click echoed through the water. It was loud, like metallic and unsettling, almost like teeth clinking together. And it was too close. My breath hitched, a sudden, involuntary spasm. The sound was too precise, too deliberate to have been an accident. My mind screamed at me to spin around, to see, but my body was suddenly paralyzed. Muscles locked, refusing to obey. The silence that followed the click was even worse. A heavy, expectant quiet that seemed to hum around me. Every nerve ending in my body screamed, "Wrong, wrong, wrong." I steadied my light, my fingers fumbling, and as I started to attempt to calm myself, a sudden, oppressive cold radiated from behind me, making the terror that was in my blood run even deeper with each passing second. It wasn't the water. It was a presence, a chilling weight, a suffocating awareness that filled the space directly behind me. Slowly, reluctantly, as my whole body was screaming in protest, my head swiveled and my entire body froze in its tracks. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. All I could do was stare in horror at the sight before me. The shark. It was no longer facing forward. Its head merely tilted. It hadn't even just tilted further. A gradual nor a deliberate lean into my personal space. Its entire body was turned completely on its axis, now facing me head on. Its nose was now only a mere 5 feet away from the protective glass of my mask. Its mouth, already agape, seemed to widen. A slow, silent stretch of its impossibly broad jaw that swallowed more of the dim light from my beam. The grin was not just vague, deep, or sly anymore. It was a monstrous, impossible rictus of pure, menacing evil. It stretched impossibly wide, pulling back, until its lips seemed to tear, revealing every single one of its impossibly white, jagged teeth, each one a perfect, ancient blade. Its eyes, those dead, black, unseeing eyes, were now ablaze with a malevolent, hungry glee, reflecting my own terrified, distorted face in their depth. It was still immobile as it had always been, still as night, but its expression showed a sliver of hidden mortality that shook me to my core. It wasn't just watching me. It was savoring my terror. A silent yet deafening laugh in its fixed, demonic smile. A cruel amusement in its paralyzing gaze. It was alive, and it was playing with me. Oh, fuck! I didn't bother with my tools. I kicked with desperate, frantic, soul-shattering force, propelled by pure, primal terror through the water. The silent grin of the maw, its eyes lit up with sinister delight, burned itself into my mind. Its own special brand of terror. I clawed my way upwards, kicking and thrashing, desperate to break the surface, to escape the crushing darkness. My lungs burned, screaming for air. The dim outlines of the surface lights shimmering tantalizingly above. I was halfway there, a choked sob bubbling from my throat, when I couldn't help myself. I took one last, terrified, agonizing look back. The track was there, but the fucking shark was gone. Nothing but the wavering reflection of the park lights and the silent, swirling chlorine. No. No. No, 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 no! No! I thrashed and kicked furiously towards the lights that swore me to safety. My eyes playing tricks on me, every bubbly wave from my erratic movements that momentarily obstructed the few inches of clear vision I had was a fin and a flash of a gigantic tooth. The surface seemed a million miles away. The fear that I would be pulled back down to the bottom of the darkness the second before I finally reached the safety of the dock weighing me down. But I scrambled out of the pool, tearing off my mask, my breath coming in ragged, painful, heaving sobs that racked my whole body. I stumbled backward, away from the wooded edge, my gaze fixed on the water, watching it slowly settle, the placid surface, a cruel lie. I knew it wasn't empty. That fucking thing was still there, somewhere. And I knew, with a horrifying, absolute certainty that stole my breath, that it had just let me go. For now. That was my last night at the Schlitterbahn. I put in my 2 weeks the very next morning. No explanation given. Just a flat, I'm done. Sterling called me multiple times, begging me to reconsider. Even offered a bonus. "Oliver, please. I'm not sure what happened, but we can fix this. Just tell me what you want. Give me a number, man. I'll match it." But I just hung up. I couldn't set foot in that place again. Especially not near that pool. The thought of that black fucking abyss beneath the water of that pool was enough to make me gag. As it would turn out, the park closed down for good a few months later. The official line was unforeseen operational difficulties, but everyone knew it was just code for, we can't tell you why, but it's bad. A few days later, Sterling just dropped off the face of the earth, and no one has seen or heard from him in a year. They never mentioned the shark in any capacity. It was never spoken of again. Almost like they had done their due diligence to erase the fact that it ever even existed. I don't know what happened to it. If it was ever moved again, or if it just stayed there along with the rest of the park, abandoned and waiting in the depths of the now disgustingly unkempt water. I hope to God no one ever finds it. Not in that pool, not in any lake, ever again. May it be lost forever. But unfortunately for me, it doesn't matter if it's hidden from the rest of the world. I see it every night. That grin, those eyes, just before it vanished. It's always there, waiting in the darkest corners of my dreams, bubbling beneath the surface of my consciousness. And now, I can't even look at a swimming pool without feeling that cold dread, that lurking, predatory presence all around me, watching me. Open water? Forget about it. The world suddenly feels too deep and too full of things that watch you from the dark. Things that hunt you. Things that smile. Sadly, that's not where the story quite ends. A breaking story on the news tonight immediately caught my attention while I was eating dinner. A group of parents are desperately pleading for anyone who can give them information on the potential whereabouts of their missing children. 3 teens have been missing since last night. They were last seen by a homeless man hopping the fence of a local abandoned water park.